All right, so welcome everybody to the Hawaii Filmmakers Collective, Coffee with Filmmakers, episode 5. We're joined by a very special guest today who I've gotten the privilege to learn from and collect a lot of gems from. And so this person I wanted to bring on for this next episode because, I met him through Creative Lab Hawaii and do the micro budgeting for directors. And so we connected really well, and I felt that this person gave me a lot to learn as a filmmaker. And so I wanted to share that with our filmmaker community for the day. And so we are joined by Hawaii's own Brian Kohne, who is an award-winning music producer for the Barefoot Natives, Willie K, and is an indie writer, director, producer for Get a Job, Kuleana, Maui. And he is a graduate of the San Jose State with degrees in art and radio /TV/film. And he returned in 2005 from Silicon Valley, having excelled as a national director of sales, marketing, corporate video productions, sports broadcasting, and senior user interface architect for an interactive television corp. Brian is principal of the Hawaii Cinema Incorporated and leads the Academy for Creative Media for Maui as program coordinator for the University of Hawaii at Maui College. He is the graduate of the Creative Lab Hawaii Writers Immersive, and he is our special guest today for Coffee with Filmmakers. Welcome, Brian. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. And so we're going to go straight into it, my friend. So what inspired you to get into the creative industry?
Yeah, I know when I was a kid, it all happened pretty organically. My brother and I were really into watching movies in particular. My family moved to Maui in 1969 from Detroit, Michigan, when I was 5 years old. Yeah. And so my whole reality really began here. And so Maui was a village at that time. So we'd go to the movie theaters. Across the street from my dad's office in town was an old Japanese movie theater, the King Theater. Every day it was something different. It was Kung Fu movies. It was Disney movies. If there was a surf movie, that's where they would pop up. And I snuck in the back and saw my first porno at age 7. So that might inform aspects of my career choices. But yeah, I think it was motion pictures really that just really struck me from a very, very young age, and just obsessed with watching movies and always just kind of looking, I want to do that. And probably what really galvanized it, I was an athlete. That was my identification of, if it was a ball, a stick, a basket, or whatever, I did it. Right. My brother, however, was 1 year older than me. He really gravitated towards theater. And so a woman on Maui in the early 70s had 4 or 5 kids, and there was no theater for kids here. So she had a theater background, so she went for it and started what was called the Maui Youth Theater, 73 or so. And so my brother jumped in because he always wanted to act. I just sort of got involved because it seemed like a cool thing to do. And all the energy around that started to make sense. I never jumped in as an actor. I always just continued to play sports. But I'd get involved with theater with my brother and the things that he'd be doing. Right. And there was 2 very, very influential people on Maui that I always point to. And one is the woman I mentioned, Linda Taquito, who started the Maui Youth Theater. Okay. And then there was another, Sue Ann Loudon, who was the drama teacher at Baldwin High School here. And these are both really driven, powerful women leaders, putting on shows, just putting the grease paint in kids' bloods. And so even in high school, I was never in a play, but I hung out in the drama club with my brother and, some of the other people. And, I figured out that most of the guys in the drama club were gay. And so,
yeah.
Right? It was hanging out there
back in those days. It was the thing. It's like, oh, if you're in theater, it's probably because this person is homosexual. And so nothing wrong with that. But, it was the thing back in those days. It was very different.
Well, truly. And there was less competition for the heterosexual females. So guys like me who are always looking for the low-hanging fruit, that made sense. But really what was going on is I was hanging out in the drama club and getting involved with the plays on the tech side to support my brother and his friends. But really what I was doing always was watching these 2 women work, watching them direct, traffic, plays, all of it. I had no interest in telling stories of other people,
Right.
but it really fascinated me. I always just sat back and watched Sue and Linda and said, that's what I want to do. I want to be the director.
Right.
I want to tell people what to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, so then filmmaking just sort of fell into it. Made my first film in high school.
Yeah.
Crazy, really crazy film that probably would get me and my parents arrested if I was in school today, but I did it, and that was a great experience at age 16, and went to college and just dove straight into it. And so that's really, I think, a long story, but entertainment was just always around me in different ways. And over the course of my life, I've absolutely been privileged to be around a lot of really incredible people and opportunities to get involved in different arts. I really identified more as an artist, which I never used to say that.
Yeah.
Now I understand it. I used to say, I'm a filmmaker. Oh, I'm a music producer. Or I'm a whatever I was doing. I've done 1,000 things. And now I really understand that at the end of the day, I'm an artist, and doesn't matter if I got something to say and I'm compelled to say it, and it sounds like it's going to be fun and there's going to be cool people involved.
Right.
I'm in, and it doesn't matter what form. I'll do whatever. I just wrote and directing producing a one-man show, not for me, but for a partner of mine.
Right.
And we just opened it tonight. Is its second public performance. It's a weekly schedule, and so I'm suddenly a playwright, which is whatever.
Congratulations on that, by the way. That's amazing.
Thanks. It all comes under the heading of artist.
Yeah. No, it's funny that you say that. I've been feeling that way too, where it's like I've been moved, like you know, I used to start when I was making films and things like that, or I guess when I've started this journey, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a filmmaker, but like when I really look at it, it's like, no, you are an artist, because you're having to compose music, and you're having to figure out lighting, and you're having to figure out, you know, tempo and rhythm and acting, and so yes, you are a filmmaker, but you are also, I mean, when you think of the responsibilities that come with being an artist, it has a lot more value and it has a lot more weight. Not to say that filmmaker doesn't, but it does put you in this like box, you know, and with artists, it's like, it opens you up so much more, because you are doing a lot, and, you know, having to do that one-man show and get the person to do a lot of the people behind the scenes for the crew, you know, you're having to work with the actor, and, you know, you're looking at the script, and there's just so much behind that. And so, yeah, I agree. I don't really like to think of myself not to say I don't think of myself as a filmmaker, but I like to say, yeah, I'm an artist. And, you know, I might not be like a rapper, and I don't have like the bars and things like that, but I'm a good writer, and my pen glides just like those guys when they do their music, and, you know, when they, you know, perform and things like that. Our performances look a little bit different. That's all. You know, and our art lives differently as well. And so,
I ran from that moniker, artist, forever, because I always associated with fine art and things of this nature. And I confess I can go to a gallery and I can it's just like wine. I can gravitate towards things I like or I don't like or I find interest in, but I to this day don't really get aspects of the whole fine art world. You know, how things can have such a high value simply because it has a high value. So there's always been something about the term artist that I always thought, I don't identify with that particular society around the fine arts.
Right.
Once I understood that better, that really being an artist is just being somebody who's driven to create. That's it. And it's how we communicate. It's how we connect with the world. Mm-hmm. Then I understood, wow, I've always been an artist. I've been an artist since I was a kid.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
So why run from it at this point? When people say, what do you do? It's easier for me to say I'm an artist rather than to go through the laundry list of stuff that I've done or that I continue to do.
Right. It's funny.
You know, am I a professor, a filmmaker, a music producer, a playwright? What? Choose one.
You have a lot of titles.
I'm a gardener too. You know, during the pandemic, I got into growing vegetables. So maybe that's what maybe I'm just a farmer. I don't know.
Yeah. Nah, it's a beautiful thing, man. Artist is all encompassing. And I think that's why it works, is that like, you don't have to go through all those titles to be like, well, I do this and I do this. And on the side, I do this. Is, you know, artists wear many hats. And so it's good to see you embrace that. And it's good to see that, you know, you've taken that in a way that's like, You know, because a lot of times I think when you think of artists, some people, when you think of like fine arts, like you were saying, some people could be like snobby and be like, oh, like I'm an artist and like my work has, you know, it's like, and it's like for us, it's like, you know, we're artists, but we're just grateful to be in the space to create. And we're just grateful to be in the space to like do these things that we saw the people that we were inspired by. And for us to now be in that seat with that responsibility, it means a lot. And so, yeah, so calling ourselves an artist, it comes with a price, but it's the price that we're willing to pay. And we put in the work to be able to claim that and to be able to be proud of it. You know,
Definitely.
so
Yeah, and one thing I'd add to that, and I know you got some other questions here.
Yeah, no, you're good.
To drag into this wormhole too far, but also it's always been fascinating to me over the years, regardless of whatever I did, the measurement of success, you know, satisfaction, whatever it is. I've done so much stuff and some big, I mean, big stuff for an independent guy, things that seem impossible and take years, and then wow, next thing you get on the other side of it and you go, wow, how did that happen? How do we do that? And I confess to not always experiencing the satisfaction that you would think. You know, you envision, oh, film festival, it's gonna be so much fun, and you know,
everybody's gonna come up to me, want to get to know me, my film, and
yeah, it sounds exciting, but then I confess to not necessarily always experiencing a great deal of satisfaction. It's almost anticlimactic for me to get something done, because what I've really learned is to tether my joy to the process. So I have a blast chasing it, doing it, all of it. And once it's done and it exists, it's great. But I don't personally know how to hold that in your hands and take that anywhere, really. So what I landed on was it was important for me to define success. And so over time, I finally arrived at what I feel is the healthiest way of looking at this for an artist or an entertainer or whatever. And I asked myself, whenever I'm second guessing and I'm not quite sure, wow, am I successful? You know, we all have these doubts, and as you get older, you run into all kinds of, you know, little dark alleys your brain ends up in when you're reflecting on your life. And for me, it's really simple now. I just ask myself, am I creating? And if the answer is yeah, I'm succeeding. That's it. It's that simple.
Yeah. And as long as it's still feeding you at the end of the day, you know what I mean? As you know, you talk about the journey and going through it, you know, if it's feeding you along the way, that the thing that you're finding fulfillment and joy, because it's true. I definitely feel what you say when the product is done and it's out and it's delivered, and you kind of just sit back, you know, at that moment, it's just like, you're grateful to be in that space, but you're even more grateful for the journey that it took you to get there and for all the gems and all the lessons. Because if there's anything I've noticed is that, like, I was talking to one of my business partners the other day, and I was just like, man, like, you know, I'm working on my first feature film. You have three. Yeah, two. You're working on your third one.
Two as writer director.
Yeah. So you have two under your belt, and you know, I'm trying to get my first one done. And I was telling one of my business partners, I was like, man, like, everything we do wrong in this first one is a good thing, because we're gonna learn all the things not to do when we get to the second one, and all the people we want to work with, and all the things that we're gonna make sure to do right. And then, you know, and obviously it's never gonna be perfect. And I'm not looking for that. What I'm looking for is I just want to get stronger, because growth for me means a lot, you know, especially you know, for me, I don't have a filmmaker's background. I'm just coming with this for like this passion and this, like, you know, and so for me, I'm just like grateful to be in this space. I'm grateful to be able to have these conversations with guys like you who have a lot of experience and who have, you know, wealth of knowledge, because it really helps me be able to learn more and pick up more. And so, you know, I'm hoping that everybody who's listening to that, I'm looking directly in the camera, everybody who's listening to that, I hope you guys are picking up a lot of the gems that, you know, will be delivered today. And I hope that, you know, that there's an opportunity for folks when they look back at some of these Coffee with Filmmakers that we've been putting out, that they're able to gain more knowledge about this person's journey and more knowledge about what they did and how they got into where they are. Because everybody's journey will be different, but our lessons are normally the same, was what I've noticed. And so,
yeah, and you know,
what you said resonated with me.
Yeah, the significance of getting your first feature as a director, you can't understate it. You get thrown into the deep end of the pool. You've got to swim to the surface. It's not going to be perfect.
Right.
So don't expect it to be.
Right.
Push yourself, actively be willing to make mistakes. If you're too afraid, then you're probably not going to say anything of value. And so your first feature is probably going to be a mixed bag, but it's so important. It's so vital. And I'd say for writer directors, especially,
Right.
what you'll discover is that directing a feature from your own script,
Right.
If you're anything like me, you're going to get on set and go, "Who wrote this crap?"
Yeah.
You confront the practical side of the script that you're writing, removed from actual production. And so when you direct your own work, you're correcting and you're becoming a better writer in real time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing, man. It's amazing. I'm sure you've done a lot of table reads as well. And it's like in those table reads, in those moments where you're on set, it's like, oh shit, like and that's the for me, that's the thing that I love about filmmaking is like when you come into those problems, everybody on set is like, all right, how can we make sure to fix this? And that's the greatest thing about filmmaking is that it's a very community-based art. Most other art forms, when you think about it, musicians can sit, they can write their own things. If they play the instrument, they can then play it, record it. There's artists out there who, a lot of them either have a sound engineer or some of them do it themselves. You have painters who, sit back, paint, and are inspired. But filmmakers, it's like you said, especially for writer directors, you're really starting at square one, and you are the most vulnerable person there. And the greatest thing about it is that you're putting your art out there, you're putting pieces of yourself out there, however you write, however you move, whatever story you're looking to tell. And the greatest thing about that is that there is a village of people behind you that are there to support you, to help this vision come to life, because they believe in you, because they want to see it come to life, because they themselves identify with it, and they themselves, feel as if this is a story that needs to be told.
Yeah, if you're casting your crew as
Right.
carefully as you cast your cast, you'll have that experience that you
Absolutely.
just described, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Sure.
I love the collaborative energy, all of it. It's so incredible. You know what when you're directing your first feature, I'll reflect on, and second, and probably everyone. One of the amazing things that happens is when you have this realization. Sometime for me, it always happens in pre-production, where you realize everybody involved, as many people as are involved, and you try to bring as many quality humans and talented artists as you can. Everybody's serving your vision. If you're a writer director, it's humbling. You realize, wow, everybody is bringing it. Everybody is looking at you because they just are all in on your vision, and it's almost intoxicating in a sense. And I think some people fall down the stairs with this particular thing because the ego gets inflated, right. And then they start to believe their own press. Everybody thinks I'm awesome and wants my vision. I must be great. Well, no, you're not.
Yeah.
These people are here to
help yourself in the process. Yeah, absolutely.
They're here to help you be great. You just have to remember that a director's primary role is to help everybody. Mm-hmm. And so if you've cast everything and you cast your crew properly, the movie's going to get made with or without you. Right. So if you simplify, I believe, and don't be a dictator and don't be a jerk, and just be sensitive to what everybody's going through, and seek to help, right. You're going to make a good movie, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Right. But here's what happens, and it happens every time. It's not unique to me. Every filmmaker I've ever talked to who goes through this. Production ends. Now, you just spent weeks or months or whatever. Everybody in your universe is, what do we do? What do we do? What do you need? What do you want? What do you want? Oh, what can red, green? And you just, wow, it's just so empowering. Well, production ends and all that goes away. It's suddenly you're
no longer the guy people look towards.
Now you're alone again. It's just like when you were writing and you were alone and lonely all the time. And now, boom, you're on the other side of it. And it's like, hey, what? How come nobody wants to play anymore? And so some of us fall into a little dip because nobody's catering to our every artistic whim any longer.
Right.
But you shake it quickly, and if you got a really good editor,
Yeah.
You just dive into that relationship, and then you're rewriting the film at that point, and that's really where the rubber hits the road, is in the edit.
I always, you know, when you were talking, I always think of, you know, because, you know, I've been in that seat for a short film. But when I was in that seat, it kind of felt like, you know, this is a Dragon Ball Z reference, but it kind of felt like Goku when he's like, he has the spirit bomb and he's like asking everybody on Earth, like, give me your energy. Like, it's just like, it's kind of like that. And what you do with that power, and what you and how you manifest, or, you know, how you alchemize the film and how you treat people, which is probably one of the most important things for any director, how you treat people, will determine how effective this film will be and the message that it's trying to, you know, create. And also, you know, whether or not those people will come back to you for the next film, you know, or for your third feature, or wherever you may be, right? Because the most important thing about this is relationships. And you know, when you're in that seat that you mentioned, and when you have that power, and when people are looking towards you, for me, like, I always want to make sure that I treat my people like family, and that we respect each other, that we love each other, and that we look out for each other as best as we can. And for me, I got that from Hawaii, and being in Hawaii, and how community oriented it is. And for me, I'm from Brooklyn, New York. And so, like, I remember like old Brooklyn before it like got gentrified and all this craziness. And I remember like old Brooklyn, you knew your crossing guard, you knew the barber, you knew the teacher knew your parents, and your parents, and like my neighbor used to watch me. And so when I came here in Hawaii in 2016, I felt that, and I got that, and I was reminded of that. And so, you know, as a filmmaker, I always wanted to make it my business to just make sure that I treated everybody like family, and that the people that I brought on, like you mentioned, you know, as you know, as filmmakers, we always do auditions for cast, and I don't know how many folks are interviewing their crew members, but you had told me that a while ago, and it is important that you interview the people on set for your crew, because you want to make sure that your crew, when you're not there as the director, when you have your back turned, that they are helping the cast, and that the cast is helping them in any way possible, because at the end of the day, we're all here for the same purpose, and we're all here to make this picture be the best that it can be, and that, you know, that we're supporting each other. And so
Yeah.
I mentioned
Yeah,
Hawaii. Oh, sorry.
In Hawaii, I've been saying this forever, and I believe it strongly. We have a unique opportunity because there hasn't been a vibrant film scene, indie film scene, and it's just kind of now percolating, it's now growing. Well, we have this opportunity to create an industry from the ground up based in our values. And what you just described about treating people well, this is not common to our industry. In fact, it's the opposite. On the other side of the pond, most productions you get involved with, professional productions, you run into a lot of very caustic personalities, people who don't love what they're doing, don't love you, and aren't afraid to show it.
And sometimes in this industry, I've noticed, because I've done a couple acting jobs for a couple films, and you know, I'm not going to say no names, but sometimes it feels very rushed. Like, we got to get this shot, and we got to go because we're running low on time. And I remember I was on a production, and I was acting, and I was doing a scene that was kind of like intense, and they were like, "Yo, like get into it," and I was just like, for me as a director, I never like to yell like action. Like I never like, because it's alarming for me. Like if I'm the actor, and especially if there's like an intimate scene, or like a scene that, you know, requires the person to cry or to be emotional, or it's a heavy scene, you know, for me, I always like to say, whenever you're ready, because you know, at this point in time, we've done all the rehearsals, we've done everything we can. Now we're here at the moment and at the creation. And so for me, I've always been like, you know, whenever you're ready, because I really want the actor to take their time, you know, to get into that scene and that moment, and to create it as best as they can, because it is a lot. There is a lot of pressure, and, you know, there's a lot of eyes. And so, you know, and, you know, it's like you said, in this industry, sometimes people can be very rushed, and sometimes people don't necessarily treat each other well. And I understand it, because I understand it, but I don't agree with it. You know, I understand it from the sense of, okay, you know, daylight savings, or like, you know, we're losing light outside, or, you know, we have all these other shots that we planned for the day and we're behind on schedule. I understand all those things, but I also, I remember Taika Waititi said this. He was just like, yo, don't forget, like, we're all playing like fantasy. Like, it's all like we're all just like, this is all like, we're all coming together to make a story, and but don't forget the joy that's there too. It's like, you know, and so for anybody who's watching this and is a filmmaker, like, I hope you take the time, you know, to, when you're on set and however busy you may become, that you take the time to breathe, and that you take the time to, like, you know, to be appreciative of just being able to create, because, you know, a lot of people, you know, I mean, yeah, there's a lot I can say to that, but I'm going to go to the next question because I have so much more from you that I want to hear from. And so, what's been your proudest moment professionally with creative content and with yourself personally, however deep you want to go?
Yeah, you know, I've been at this for a long time, so I can reflect on a lot of moments that feel in retrospect important. No doubt the completion of Get a Job, our first feature. It's the first full feature ever shot and completed independently on Maui.
Right.
And so that was that was something I sought to do from the time I was a kid. Right. And so to get that under our belt, and then the movie was good. It was funny. It didn't suck. And so to successfully complete it was something. And then Kuleana, which is the one we did a few years back. That's something that I rewrote 12 times over 11 years. So it was a real labor of love. And this movie, there was nothing easy about it. On paper, financing was 4.5 year challenge. And so when that one was finally done, and then I'm very proud of what we did. Did we make mistakes? Could we have done better? No, we made mistakes. Could we have done better? No, we did our best. And that's it. We left it on the field. And I'm very proud of that work, and I'm very happy to have told a deeply cultural story that is unfundable. So I think that there's really something for us indies. Part of our value is taking these projects that would never see the light of day in a traditional film world, and yet we're stubborn and hopeful and delusional enough to tell these stories, and whether they work in whole or not, whether it was just a great growth experience, whether there's something about what you did that's remarkable, whatever it is. So that was definitely the experience. I think I'm only now starting to realize this particular source of pride, I guess, is I had the opportunity several years ago after Kuleana, ironically, right when these other opportunities to advance and make another movie popped up. Right. But I had an opportunity to take the reins here at University of Hawaii Maui College, right, and create Academy for Creative Media Maui, create a film and graphic design and web development school. And wow,
that's big.
So I jumped in, and that's what I've been doing for the last 3 years, along with other creative stuff. But right, I just created a film school here. So for the first time ever, a young creative on Maui can not only get a 2-year degree here on Maui in filmmaking or web development or graphic design, but our students can then transfer to UH West Oahu for an additional 2 years online, right, and earn a BA. So I think this is where I'm feeling a little bit of pride. This is kind of a legacy thing. Absolutely. Is that I'm going to be long gone, but island creatives are always going to have this avenue into this world that most haven't had. I had to leave. I knew I wanted to do film and music and graphic design. I studied all these things, and I knew I wanted to do it. There was definitely no way to, back then in '82, there was no way to do it on Maui. There was no way to do it on Oahu either. Yeah. So I had to go, and I had to stay away for 21 years because there was no way to work here either. So I guess that's where I'm starting to feel a little bit of pride, because the school's running, the degrees are going, our students are thriving. Right. And I'm sort of the proud papa looking at this going, my God, I practically flunked out of school. Yeah. How the heck did it was crazy enough to let me build a
Man,
Ooh, but they did it, and I think we're all enjoying the spoils now.
for sure, that's definitely something you should definitely very, very much be proud of, something you should definitely be prideful of, because it's like you said, there's not a lot of back in those days, there wasn't a lot of opportunity. And it's crazy that, we're now seeing, the film industry shine more light to Hawaii in the best way possible. And even you mentioned West Oahu, they just got approved for a grant. So they're going to be having a bigger film school. And so that's exciting to see. And, like you mentioned, a lot of your students who are going into Maui can be able to transfer there and do it online. And so it brings opportunity to an island that deserves so much and that has given so much to guys like us who are guests here and have been able to be blessed enough to for you to teach, for me to work, and for me to learn, and for us to grow. And so yeah, that's a huge blessing. And also the two films that you've created, I mean, creation itself is like, I always, for me, I've been watching I've been watching a bunch of old Federico Fellini films. And, these were films that came out in the 50s, the 60s. And so your films, whether you believe it or not, or know this or not, but your films, somebody's going to watch them in 2030 and 2040 and 2050, and it's going to be somebody who's from Hawaii. And for a lot of the filmmakers that'll come out of this island, out of this state, will look at a lot of the films, and you can say that two of my films that are from Hawaii and that I'm proud of can stand next to some of the other great films like Once Were Warriors, and a lot of the other films that came from Hawaii, Beyond Paradise, and can stand next to them. And even though it may not be in the same genre, it provides a different perspective and a different light. And it's just good to, to be able to just, throw your rock into the ocean, and because, the ocean is filled with every filmmaker from all over the world. But at least, you're able to say, I have two of my rocks in that ocean that I'm proud of and that I'm
Yeah,
great.
and 10 years ago, when get a job, when we were fortunate to get that done and out, that was a pond at that point. So that was a little pebble we threw into a pond. And so I am absolutely thrilled 10, 11 years later to think in terms of Hawaii films being more of an ocean, because there's so many more filmmakers that are passionate, that are driven, that are doing the hard work. And, you've got organizations like Creative Lab and Academy for Creative Media Systems. And there's other stuff going on today that weren't going on 11 years ago. That's exciting. It's exciting to be part of something. Maybe 7 years ago, somebody in a radio interview asked, "So what does it feel like to be the only filmmaker in Hawaii?" I said, "Whoa, I'm definitely not the only filmmaker in Hawaii. There's a lot of people. You're not seeing their work because we're all trying to find our way to the light of day. I just happen to have done something that's getting a little bit of attention." But my goal is not to be an anomaly. My goal is to be part of something. And if there is to be a Hawaii genre, there needs to be more films and there needs to be more filmmakers. And so I'm absolutely thrilled to still be creating, to still be successful based on that definition. And to be to be part of something, to have people on all islands making movies, even on Molokai. There's great filmmakers on Molokai right now.
Straight up, man. So our next question is, you're working on your third feature film, kind of, sort of. What's the process been like for you thus far? Where are you at? And what's the name of the film? If you have a working title that you're comfortable to share.
Yeah, I've got a project that I've been working on, just like Kuleana took 11 rewrites over 12 years. I got a project that I've been working on for about 10 or 11, maybe 12 years now. Although I haven't been on script, I've always stayed in outline, and because I've been comfortable there, the story keeps changing. It's a trilogy, and it's something that I was definitely going to do 3 years ago. I was going to go right into it before this opportunity to create the film school came up. But yeah, it's a film entitled Tears of the Beekeeper. It's an interesting film. It's I don't even know what my genre is. Everybody's
I love that. Blur the lines.
It was. I thought you made cultural thrillers. I sort of do that too. And this other one is probably a genre bender as well. so that's the big one, and that's the one I'd always earmarked to not just do it fully independently. And it's not a Hawaii movie, at least not part one.
Right.
I might be able to find a sneaky way to involve Hawaii in part 2 or 3. But that's the one that I wanna grow into those bigger shoes. That's the project that I'll go ahead and, you know, do the deal with somebody on the other side of the pond and bring in some of the money and get the talent and, you know, use my skills as an indie to be savvy and to earn myself a chance to, you know, to do a movie with a few stars and a, you know, a real budget.
Right. Right.
So that's still up the road,
Right.
I guess, because I got off track with this other thing. But now then suddenly, you know, I was teaching a comedy class this semester and a screenwriting class,
Yeah.
2 different classes, and my students, they were just inspiring me. They're into it. They're so into comedy and something I've studied my whole life, and teaching screenwriting for the first time got me all pumped about that. And so I just started writing a sequel to get a job.
Oh, wow.
My first feature. And it was easy. It just flowed. The ideas were there and it was just coming out like, wow, this is so easy. When was screenwriting?
Inspiration was coming from all these different places. So of course that energy was pushing you in that direction.
Yeah, well, and one of the principals in Get a Job, Willie K, one of my partners in music, and you know, I've worked with him in a lot of capacities. He passed away a year ago, so that's been real heavy. And so when this idea for the sequel to Get a Job came up, I mean, the first question, anytime I tell anybody, hey, I'm kind of working on a sequel to Get a Job, first question is how? Willie's dead.
Right.
Exactly. So I got this way of working with that, and not to give away too many secrets, but the movie will start with Willie K's funeral. He died during the pandemic.
Right.
Didn't get a proper send off in my, you know, public send off. You know, just family, just close family at that time. This was a year ago. And so I'm going to give Willie K a cinematic funeral that he would have loved.
Yeah, that he deserves and that he would have loved.
Yeah. And it'll be insane. And I can hear Willie laughing right now at the thought that we're gonna try to do this. So what's my next thing? I'm not sure. It could be this comedy a year from now. Maybe I'll get fired up about doing Tears. I don't know, or maybe I'll just jump into something else. I'm having so much fun doing theater right now. This one-man show that we did, it's really good. It's really funny. People love it.
Yeah.
And it was way easier than making a movie. So I'm also looking at, wow, maybe theater in a weird way, now that we live in a world where cinema is sort of gone, and everything is streaming, television, and everything is content, which means it's not that important. It's not definitely the form I've always wanted to be in since a kid.
Yeah.
It's dying. It doesn't seem accessible. And I always thought theater was dead. And so I'm kind of now looking at, wait, maybe it's time. Maybe we're entering a period of time where people want to go to theater, and maybe, you know, maybe it's a time for us to stop just putting on the same damn plays year after year after year. Do I really need to see Phantom of the Opera again? I don't. And so maybe it's time for creatives to start really diving in and creating some superior works for the stage.
Right.
Could be exciting. It's definitely fun like hell. Tonight when I'm going, I get to sit back. My guy can perform the hell out of this show, and I get to sit back and experience all of these people in the audience just having a great time.
You get to see through their eyes.
Feels good.
Yep.
Yeah, feels good. And I sit back and I'm not worried about nothing.
Right.
You know, I'm ordering a beer and I'm going,
that's when you know you've done a good job. Like you as the director, as the writer, as the person who's worked on the show behind the scenes, before the show, with the actor, you know, it's that moment where like you look around and you're like, man, I really don't have to do anything, and I could purely enjoy this as an audience member, and I can live through these people and feel that energy. What's good about what you said is that, like, I was watching this show the other day. It reminded me of what you said, and the protagonist in the show, it was Master of None. I don't know if you've seen that show with Aziz Ansari, but I was watching season 3, and the actor Lania, I think her last name is Wright. She was saying, she was just like, man, like, I'm just scared that I'm gonna run out of ideas. She was like writing her second book or whatever. And it's so dope to like hear you talk and to see that like your ideas, your the energy, the things that you're working on, the things that you have going for you, it's an unlimited wealth of creativity and expression. And it's good to see that you as an artist, that you're tapped in, but outside of that, that you allow yourself to let the energy take you wherever it's pulling you, you know, whether it's the comedy for the second feature film, whether it's the playwright. And so, because sometimes as artists, I feel that we can get stuck, and we can, you know, there's all the whole writer's block, but even outside of that, sometimes we could be stuck in like, man, I gotta finish this project, even though you know, this other project that I got going on, it's really calling to me. I got a deadline for this and I gotta meet this. And it's good to see that you're in a free flowing, you know, where it's like, you know, I'm just following wherever the river takes me, and wherever it breaks, if it breaks left, I'm going left. If it breaks right, I'm going right. And so it's good to see that, because not a lot of artists have that, and a lot, you know, and the fact that you're able to find yourself in that space and kind of take it wherever and just enjoy it, it's a blessing.
I think the pandemic helped me reflect and settle into this way of thinking. I'm like everybody, you know, especially in the pursuit of Kuleana, single-minded, like a dog with a tennis ball. Yeah. And that's a difficult way to live. And you know, it pushes certain people in your life away from you, because when you're all in and you're all in your head all the time, some people don't want to hang out with somebody who's not present, you know. So I'm no different than everybody. I think just right now, and I had completed Kuleana, which was a lifelong ambition, and I built this school. So this pandemic happens, and we all have this chance to sit back and prioritize and re-examine our values. And so if there's truth to what you're saying about where I'm at right now, it's probably a result of all those factors. Right. And I'm getting older. I'm just getting, you know, I'm in my mid 50s, and everybody who's ever turned 60 says you're gonna love it, because the moment you 60, get shit about anything. I think I'm kind of getting there. And it's liberating to not feel, you know, like my identity's trapped in being a filmmaker or this or that. Whatever. I'm cool. I try to hang out with cool people. I try to be nice. I try to, you know, hang out with people who inspire me. And it's that simple, right?
You're in a good space. You're in a good space, and you're keeping a cool head, and you know, you're taking it day by day as best as can. You know,
totally.
So our last question for the podcast is, what advice do you have for individuals interested in being a filmmaker in any community, or, you know, just any general advice that you would have for any filmmaker at any stage?
Awesome. Great. I would say for directors, if you want to direct, take acting lessons. Go be in a play. It drives me crazy. People say, I'm a director. Oh, cool. Are you like, have you acted before? No. That's, I just direct actors. How the hell are you going to direct an actor if you've never stood in their shoes? So it doesn't mean you got to be a good actor, but put yourself there. Once you understand their process, you're going to already be in a better position to help them. I'd say for independent producers, directors, get a job in sales and marketing. Take a job cold calling, doing things you hate. Develop the skill of asking for things and finding the persuasive techniques, because in the search for money and to motivate and to open doors, you're going to need all those skills. So I mean, I'm reflecting on a long life with a lot of different experiences. And the advantage, this is what I guess I can wrap it up this way. When I was directing Get a Job 11 years ago, whenever that was, and first time filmmaker, right? Or first time director, writer, director, full feature. I've been on done a lot of stuff, but never the hot seat. And of course, people around you are, oh God, you don't know. And it's a real leap for a director of photography working with a first time director. They don't know what they're going to get. And, but for me, day one, I realized quickly that I was absolutely prepared for it, because I'd done every single job on that crew, up and down, everywhere. Everybody working for me, us, I knew what they were doing. I knew their job. And so I had this inherent empathy. I understood. There was a compassion. I wasn't barking at anybody because that's not how you talk to somebody who's doing that particular thing. So I had this, I believe, enviable reality of, damn, I know how to do all of this.
Right.
Cool. The challenge then I recognized was, and then you're having to do 1,000 things at once. Everything I had to do, I'd done before. But here was the rub. I'd never done it all at once. Mm-hmm. And so that was the growth step for me with Get a Job, was living through this lengthy process, 21 shooting days over a month, plus 3 weeks of pre-production, plus all the other nonsense that came before and post. Well, I was absolutely well suited for it. It was incredibly difficult. And the adjustment was just learning how to do all of these things I already knew how to do at once. So the practical advice I'd leave everybody with who wants to go into this game, filmmaker, if you want to be above the line, if you want to be writer, director, producer, editor, even, do everything. Don't tell me that you can't work craft services. Work craft services. Find out what that means. Work in the lighting department. Work in the costume department. Take acting lessons. Do whatever. Be a script supervisor. Get involved, do stuff, get experience outside of that. Anybody who's narrow-minded enough to say, I'm just a director. Okay, cool. What does that mean? What skills do you actually have beyond telling people that you're a director? What is it, an ego thing? You just want to, usually it comes whenever people are like that, they're insecure. So right. they stick themselves in this little box where I don't have to deal with any of that crap, because they know inside they're not good at it. Well, get good at it.
Right.
Get good at it. You're not going to make a great movie until you grow up, until you have something to say, until you have life experience. So spend your time and energy learning all of the essential skills. Even if you never perform those jobs ever again, you are going to be the director everybody in your crew loves, because you have an inherent compassion and empathy for what they're doing, and you're going to be better positioned to help them.
Right. And to add on to that, the other thing that people don't know when you do those other things is the connections you make when you do those other things in those departments. Because what ends up happening is, like, when you start working, because for me, I started acting in like 2018. And then I started writing in 2019, and then I directed my first short in 2020. But what was great about that journey was that I was able to make connections, and I'm sure it was the same for you. Working in all these different departments, you're like, oh, I really like working with this person. Hey, can we exchange contacts? Da 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 da. Okay, boom, I got somebody from Crafty. I really like this sound engineer. This guy that worked the gaff, he's a really, man, he was great. He was uplifting. Let me make this connection. And that's the other thing that people don't know when they put themselves out there, is that, like, not only are you able to work in these different departments and learn these different spaces and places, but you're also making connections with these people. And the more, and again, it goes back to community. The more you find the people that you want to work with on a picture, and have them help you on your own picture, you want to make sure it's strategic. And so when you see those people and you're able to work in these different departments, the more, I really want to add another layer to what you said, because it's so foundational and it's so key. And again, community is everything here. And so with that being said, Brian, thank you so much for taking the time today to be part of the Hawaii Filmmakers Collective, Coffee with Filmmakers, episode 5. We want to thank everybody who's watching at home. We hope that you are safe, that you are healthy, and that you are loved. And so this is Julian Cepeda. This is Julian signing off on episode 5.